Welcome to a special edition of Real Foot Forward, a West Tennessee podcast from Discovery Park of America in Union City, Tennessee. Today's episode is brought to you by AAF West Tennessee.
Thank you, Zach, and welcome everybody to Real Foot Forward, a West Tennessee podcast where we explore the history, the people, and the culture of our home in West Tennessee. I am your host, Scott Williams. Okay, Zach, before I introduce today's episode, what is something you've discovered this week at Discovery Park of America?
For this particular episode, I thought it would be fun to discover something that we use every time we record an episode. The artifact is a mouthful, so I had to write it down. It is the Shure Brothers Model 55S Multi-Independence Unidyne Microphone.
Wow.
That's in our technology showcase. Personally, it's one of my favorite of all time microphones, and possibly up there for you as it's nicknamed the Elvis mic. I don't know if you know what mic I'm talking about now.
I do know exactly what mic you're talking about, and I honestly know why they call it the Elvis mic, because it's, you know, the kind that Elvis used to record many of his early tunes. Okay, so this is a different episode. You and I were both part of a recent event called Podalyst, a day-long workshop on driving success through podcasting, which you and I both love podcasting. Mm-hmm. There were a whole slew of guests. Mary Brown did a segment with me where we talked about, you know, our podcast here. Kenneth Cummings from East Main 101, Kevin Adelsberger sponsors. See, why am I talking about a podcast? I can't even speak. Kevin Adelsberger from Adelsberger Marketing in Jackson sponsored the breakfast and the lunch, which was really great. We had a team from Armchair Expert. Scott Haidt from Leaders Credit Union, a good friend of ours, was there. Chris Donaldson. It's just one after the other. We had so many great speakers, a lot of attendees. Actually, a storm was a brewing while we were meeting, so everybody was checking their weather. You know, tornadoes and everything was headed our way, and a lot of people had to drive back into the eye of the storm on there. So they, you know, anyway, it was still a roaring success, as they say. And so we've got an episode that Kevin Adelsberger has produced while we were having the session. So he took advantage of all these podcasters together. So I think it's really an interesting episode. I took a little bit of a listen earlier, and I think it's going to be really interesting for people.
Yeah, I had a great time. It was one of my favorite AAF events I've been a part of so far.
Yeah, I really enjoy AAF. Do you like AAF West Tennessee?
I do. I love advertising, so it's fun to always have different meetings with that organization, and the podcast one was huge for us.
It's a great way to make contacts with people who are in our business of communication. No matter what you communicate, you know, whether you're podcasting, TikToking, Instagramming, Facebooking, you know, social media is a big part of our communication today. But at AAF, we also talk about some of the traditional things like print media and public relations and marketing and etc. So I find it to be a very rewarding organization for those of us in West Tennessee, especially those of us in rural communities who maybe don't get that connection with people as often as those who live in a big city.
Without further ado, here's a collection of podcasting tips, favorite shows, and more.
So we're here at Discovery Park of America with the American Advertising Federation of West Tennessee for a workshop on podcasting. We've gathered podcasters from around the region, but also those who are living other places who were able to teams in and share with us their tips, their tricks, their advice and suggestions to a whole group of people. We had about 50 people who came here today who were looking forward to starting their own podcasts. The reason this is important is because we're here in a rural community. And so we want these stories of all these people, these entrepreneurs, all these people that are doing great things. We want them to use podcasting to get the stories out into the community. Of course, You'll be hearing sounds as you visit Discovery Park of America. Right now, we're hearing dinosaurs. So when you visit Discovery Park of America, you'll see dinosaurs, woolly mammoths, Cenozoic mammals, and creatures of all kinds. So that's the noise that you'll be hearing as people are talking. So the first question we're asking some of our attendees is, what is your best podcasting tip?
I'm Kevin Adelsberger. I'm with Adelsberger Marketing in Jackson. Tips for podcasting. I would always encourage people to make sure that there's not a lot of room noise like dinosaurs eating things behind you. It makes for a better podcast. Oh, and put your phone on silent.
Hey, I'm Scott Height. I'm Director of Marketing and Digital Strategy at Leaders Credit Union, and I'm also the producer of the Pocket Change podcast. So my top podcasting tip would be to be consistent. I think producing a consistent podcast, releasing it on the same day of the week, same day of the month is important so that your listeners know what to expect.
I'm Mary Brown. I'm with Third Party Workplace Conflict Restoration Services. My top podcast tip is to know who you are and what your mission is and be very consistent. My podcast, which is Conflict Managed, I know exactly what it is that I want to do, which is normalizing conflict, and that is normal and we can deal with it.
My name is Avery Decker, and I am the communications assistant at USJ. I think the biggest tip that I have is comfortability. If you're in a comfortable environment, it gives your person a little more comfortability and a little more confidence in speaking. So just a nice, comfortable environment.
My name is Kenneth Cummings. I am the Communications Director for the City of Jackson, Tennessee, and I am the facilitator of the City of Jackson's East Main 101 podcast. My top podcasting tip is to make sure that the red light is on when you're recording, whether it's video or audio. Make sure you're recording before you start the actual interview.
Okay, my name is Carol Ryan. I am here with the group from the University School of Jackson. I am the Director of College Advising at the University School of Jackson. My top podcasting tip is to always have another person in there with you, kind of a buddy system. I've listened to several podcasts, and I really enjoy a back and forth more than I do one person speaking.
I'm Carrie Cantrell, and I work for Leaders Credit Union. I'm a community engagement specialist. Okay, so my top podcasting tip is just to remember that it's a conversation that you're having with a person. You just have a person on the other side, and just be natural like you would be talking to them any other time, and just forget about, the cameras and the lights and the fact that you're being recorded, and just have a natural conversation.
Yeah, so my name is Senior Kilpatrick. I'm the Chief Marketing Communications Officer at Jackson State Community College. Top podcasting tip for me would probably be double check to make sure you actually hit record. That has actually bit me more than you would imagine. But also have backup audio. Backup audio has saved me multiple different times. Just having a room tone that is at least capturing something. So then that way, worst case, if a audio mic goes down or a cord all of a sudden just frays, you're good to go.
My name is Ola Braguer. I work at Discovery Park as the Education Administrative Associate, and I've been in the U.S. for the past 9 years, originally from Ukraine. I haven't done podcasts. It's in works. I'm planning on it, but based on what I heard and seen, you just gotta be confident and just go for it.
My name is Margaret Livingston. I'm the head of the middle school at University School of Jackson. I'm not super experienced with listening to podcasts, but I do like to listen to a lot of audiobooks. And I really like when somebody is enthusiastic, when they're excited, when they're willing to admit that they have made mistakes. I tend to like Australian accents in my audiobooks. Obviously, Leanne Moriarty, anything by her, gonna be Australian, gonna love it. I tend to think that sometimes in the South we sound a little bit Southern, which I understand other people like as well. But generally, I like enthusiasm in anything that anyone produces. If you can see a passion behind it and you know that that person is excited to be talking about their subject area, I'm all in.
My top podcasting tip is to really create some healthy distance between you and the mic, because you don't want to get a plosive. If you get a plosive, it makes the audio sound a little like a bit of a pop sound. So you want to create a little distance, a little bit below the chin. That's my biggest tip.
My name is Zach Willis. I am the manager of marketing and PR here at Discovery Park of America, and also the co-host of the Real Foot Forward podcast at Discovery Park. My top podcasting tip, just have fun. That's it for me. Just be relaxed in the interview. If you are interviewing someone in the podcast, it just seems easier when you do it that way.
My name's Jason Kaiser. I'm a pharmacist in Union City, Tennessee. Well, being a absolute beginner in podcasting, my number one tip is be realistic about what you can and cannot accomplish, and make sure that you are realistic about what you need budgetarily, but also resource-wise to help you get over the finish line getting started.
My name is Abby Helmick, and I'm with the Art Room by Abby, located in downtown Union City, and I'm Abby Helmick of Abby Helmick Art. My favorite podcasts are the ones that are the interview type scenario. I love to listen to people's stories in the background. I'm not so much of one that I can't really stay involved if I'm hearing the same person the entire podcast. So I like to listen to the banter back and forth.
Chris Donaldson, The Mill Workspace. Yeah, I think the thing that I like most about the podcasts that I watch are the ones that are real thoughtful. You know, I do like the really loose conversational type podcasts, but the ones that I really dig into and listen through all the way, will pause and come back to, are the ones that are just really well thought out. And it's in a really specific topic that's just they're just diving really deep into. So I think just a real well thought out, deep topic. You know, something that I could listen to for 2 or 3 hours. So that's it for me.
I'm Scott Williams with Discovery Park of America. My biggest tip for podcasters is to listen. It's really hard to be thinking about what your next question is going to be, but it's really important to respond to what the person is saying to you while they're talking. A huge percentage of people listen to podcasts now, so this is a great group for us to ask, what is your favorite podcast?
I love podcasts, and probably the one that always goes to the top of the feed is Cortex with Mike Hurley and CGB Cray. I can't even really describe what it is, but it's one I listen to every time it comes out.
So I have 2 favorite podcasts. One's a daily podcast. It's called The Daily Hustle. Or the Hustle Daily Show, actually, and I listen to it every morning driving to work. Another one I like to listen to is the Marketing Against the Grain podcast. So it's actually keeps me up to date on all the AI news in marketing and gives great use cases on how to use AI in my day-to-day work as a marketer.
My favorite podcast is the Nate Land podcast. I love comedy, and every Wednesday it comes out. I look forward to listening. It's a 2-hour podcast. I get to listen to it through the week, and it just brings me a lot of joy.
The Mel Robbins podcast. I love listening to her. She's very inspiring, and I think that she just gives me motivation that I can do anything, and so I just really love her.
My favorite podcast is hosted by Mr. Sunday Movies. They do what they call Caravan of Garbage, and they review old videos, old movies, and they just talk about what they did in the box office and whether they liked it or not. So I enjoy any podcast that deals with movies such as Marvel or DC and things like that.
That is a really tough question. I listen to lots of podcasts. I start my morning with the Mo News podcast with Mo Shinunu and Jill Wagner. It's a fair and balanced news approach. Then I segue into Zoe, Science and Nutrition, which just does peer-reviewed science breakdowns of recent findings. Then Avery stated that she likes the Mel Robbins podcast. I do Mel Robbins. And then my walking podcast, so I'm aware of my surroundings, is Always Morbid, or My Favorite Murder.
Okay, so my favorite podcast is more than just one, but I would go with Brene Brown. She's my favorite author. I love that she speaks about vulnerability and how it is to just really kind of get a little uncomfortable with conversations and relationships, but it takes you further in life when you do. Second, I would say Jefferson Fisher. He just gives really great advice and pointers that are just really simple. And then just an off the cuff, like not anything like that kind of podcast would be Crime Junkies. I know it's so popular, but it's great for a road trip as long as you're not by yourself. But
favorite podcast right now is Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO. As a chief marketing officer, I'm trying to learn from some of the other CMOs and some of their mistakes, but also some of their learnings and wrongdoings and right doings as well. And that's one by Jamie Hunt. She was a former communications officer at a couple different large universities. And so she goes and dives into the world of higher ed. And it's a very, very interesting world to be in. It's an interesting space to do communications as well as marketing in as well.
Oh, that's a struggle because there's a lot of them. But if I have to choose, number one will be Morbid, because I just like to listen about serial killers,
I have listened to podcasts. I'm really more into leadership development podcasts. I have listened to some podcasts about triathlon training and things like this, but I'm a little bit more into audiobooks. I love the Libby app and Overdrive, and I love Jackson Madison County Library. So I'm a little more into the longer content.
My favorite podcast right now has to be 40 by 45. It's a great podcast featuring leaders from all around West Tennessee, hosted by Kevin Adelsberger, and I think it's a great podcast that if you want to learn about West Tennessee leaders, there's no better place to tune your ears.
So I'm big into a lot of sports podcasts, but one podcast has another one in their platform called Cinephobe, and it is a podcast where two guys watch movies that are poorly rated on Rotten Tomatoes, and they try to ascertain if it was properly rated or if it didn't get a fair chance.
My favorite podcast that I probably listen to the most often is the members-only version of Peter Attia's The Drive. Very clinical, very medical, cutting-edge information, but I get nerdy like that.
I have two that I'm currently always listening to, and it's the 5 to 9 podcast. That is an artist podcast where she's kind of giving you business info and how to get started. And then the other one is the Art Coaching Club. Both of those have been great and incremental in me starting my studio.
Yeah, so my favorite podcast is the Micro podcast. I think the Micro Works. I really love, and it's related to his thoughtfulness and what he does. So he really digs deep into a subject. He's very funny and he's very talented. He's got a background in news and in theater, and but he really researches his subject and digs in really deep and just does it really well. And so I've always enjoyed, and it could be some topic that I know nothing about, and I'll listen to it. And I think that's just a mark of a really good interviewer. So
my favorite podcast is Pivot with Scott and Kara, and the reason is because they deliver the news and the banter with a contemporary slant to it, and also technology is really important, and the economy, and so it's really helpful to listen to their insight based on their very different sets of experience. And then the third question: if you could start a new podcast and you had an unlimited amount of money, what would it be?
If I could start any podcast and it be successful, I would probably do one on the Minnesota Vikings. And so I'd get to hang out with all my favorite players.
Okay, so if I could start a podcast about anything that is not the current podcast that I help produce, would be about breakdancing, because if I could go back to my youth, I loved to breakdance. I was not good at it, but I'd love to host a podcast about the art of breakdancing.
If I could make another podcast, what would it be about? It's a really good question. I am all about conflict and healthy work environments, and so I'm also very interested in people's stories, and so just listening to people and what they're passionate about and their advice to others. I just think it's so interesting learning from other people.
Probably a little bit about my personal testimony, about honesty. I would love to reach out to people who come from a difficult past and want to talk about it and want to get on a deeper level about it. So I'm a journalism major, so that's my realm of expertise. I love talking, I love writing, and getting to know people. So,
if I could start another podcast, I would want it to be about being a black father to especially a daughter. I would love to just talk about the ins and outs, the ups and downs of being, first of all, a husband and a father to a daughter.
I really value my female friendships, and I think that's really important as you go through every stage of life. And I would love to have a podcast or work with other women on podcast where we collaborate together on every aspect of life.
So if I could start a podcast and what it would be about, I've actually thought about this. I actually think I even know the name of it, but it would be about being a single mother. I'm now in my 40s, and my journey as being a single mother and what it's like to date in your 40s and do everything all over again. I have lots of relationships with other single moms or even, dads as well. And, it's kind of hard out there. So just to basically just open up the conversation of what this experience is like and, how to survive it, basically.
So shameless plug, we already have a podcast called Your Community College, the podcast. We demystify higher ed by not saying the jargon that we love to say in higher ed as well. But if I had to start another one, I had one, some buddies of mine in college called Garage Beers, and we'll let you kind of think of what that could potentially be. But it was a good idea that we had that never came to fruition, but it was something that would probably be a little entertaining now.
So the one I'm working on it, but it's not out yet, is the name gonna be, I think, the USA Aliens. And it's just because all the international people, if you look at our status, we consider as aliens in USA. So I just want to create something where internationals can say their story. But is it gonna come out? Who knows?
Oh, I have a plan for this. If I were to start a podcast, I work at University School of Jackson, and so if I were to start a podcast, I would want our head of school, Mr. Rowe, to be in a room with our upper school director, Mr. Suber, and I'd like to ask them questions about leadership and leadership philosophy and let them just dive deep into what leadership means. How do you make a difficult decision? How do you have a difficult conversation? And I just want them to go for it, and everybody can learn so much from them. So I think the name of it would be The Rowe Show because his name is Mr. Rowe. And that's my goal with being at the conference today, is to learn a little bit about how to produce a podcast from a personal as well as from the bigger picture of the school, for people at University School of Jackson to learn a little bit more about what we do and the decisions that we make and what we can provide and what we can give back to our community.
If I can create any podcast, it would be about the creation of the spaceships. Because I've always really enjoyed how spaceships are made and how fast they go up into the sky. And so if I could share with everyone else how spaceships are made and how fast they go, I think the world would be a better place.
Honestly, I love the one that we have here at Discovery Park, but I sometimes think we could implement more about what we have in this building. So maybe some type of podcast with the word discovery in it. And we have so many things in this building that we could talk about for thousands of episodes. So that would be cool.
I think it would be somewhere between a balance of actual medical knowledge and the lay person's understanding of what we've always been taught, and trying to, like Yoda said, unlearn what we have learned a little bit. I think we have the wrong approach sometimes in how we treat disease and medicine. And I would like to see people start to take a broader approach with greater solutions earlier and empower themselves to help discover what may be causing diseases instead of just waiting around, trusting the typical medical establishment and getting a $5,000 drug.
Well, I being here today, I've been really thinking about that and motivated in the fact that there are so many stories out there of artists that are undiscovered or discovered, their story of where they are today, how they got there, where they want to go, just their background. You know, there's an amazing artist here in Union City, Miss Pat Wade, and a lot of her art is here at Discovery Park of America. And to know that she didn't even start painting until she was in her 30s, like those kind of things are very interesting to me, and that's what I would do if I could start a podcast.
If I could make my own podcast, it would definitely be about rural business. You know, I'm from Northwest Tennessee, but I grew up on a farm. I've always been interested in rural topics, and the idea of, you know, diversifying income off a farm has always been something that I've been involved with and attracted to. And so I think telling stories of people in rural business across the country would be, you know, what I would probably talk about.
So it would definitely be about history. I love exploring things that happened in the past. The podcast that we do at Discovery Park is more question and answer with guests. This would be more of an immersive podcast that would tell maybe a 6-part episode story of someone that lived in history, probably a biographical type podcast. Wow, that was fascinating. For more about AAF West Tennessee, visit aafwesttennessee.com. For more about visiting Discovery Park of America here in Union City, Tennessee, visit discoveryparkofamerica.com.